Jake Martinez walked through the long metal hallways of the Galactic Military Academy Station Omega-7. His boots made soft sounds on the polished floor. The station was huge and clean, with bright lights everywhere. Through the big windows, he could see stars and distant planets floating in the dark space. This was his first day as an instructor here. Jake had been a Marine for 10 years back on Earth. He had fought in many battles and survived in places that would kill most people. Now the Galactic Federation wanted him to teach alien soldiers how to fight and survive. Jake stopped at a large door marked Training Room 7. He took a deep breath and walked inside. The room was filled with strange beings he had never seen before. Some looked like giant insects, others like birds with arms instead of wings. There were creatures that seemed to be made of crystal, and others that looked like floating clouds of light. At the front of the room stood Zethkar, the head instructor. He was 8 feet tall with 4 arms and a face like a praying mantis. His green eyes looked at Jake with something that seemed like annoyance. "So you are the human they sent us," Zethkar said. His voice sounded like metal scraping against metal. "I do not understand why we need a Deathworlder to teach our students. We have been training soldiers for thousands of years." Jake nodded. Politely. "I'm here to help however I can, sir," the alien students whispered among themselves. Jake could hear some of their words through his translator device. They were talking about humans and how dangerous their home planet was. Some seemed curious, others looked scared. "These are our best students," Zethkar continued, pointing to 4 aliens sitting in the front row. "Priyaven is from the cetacean species. Her people live in the deep oceans of their world. Priyaven looked like a dolphin that could walk on land. She had smooth gray skin and large, intelligent eyes." She nodded at Jake but said nothing. "Quilthex is a Varian," Zethkar went on. "His people are the best pilots in the galaxy. Quilthex had feathers instead of hair and sharp yellow eyes. His arms ended in hands with long fingers that looked like they could grip anything perfectly. Morgeth is from the crystalline species. They are very strong and hard to hurt. Morgeth looked like he was made of blue glass. Light moved through his body in patterns that hurt to look at directly. And Veltara is a shade. Her people can move through walls and become invisible. Veltara was hard to see clearly. She looked like smoke that had been shaped into the form of a person. Sometimes she seemed solid, other times Jake could see right through her. "These students will graduate in 3 months," Zethkar said. "They have already completed basic training, weapons training, and tactical studies. They are ready for their final test." Admiral Crossthan entered the room. He was a tall being with purple skin and no hair. Gold medals covered his chest. Everyone stood up quickly when they saw him. "Students and instructors," the Admiral said in a deep voice. "I have an announcement. Your final test will take place on Kepler 442c. The room became very quiet. Jake could feel the fear from the students. Even Zethkar looked worried. "Kepler 442c is a hostile world," the Admiral continued. "The air is thick and hard to breathe. The weather changes quickly from hot to cold. There are dangerous animals and poisonous plants. The ground itself can kill you if you are not careful." One of the students raised a hand. "Sir, what kind of equipment will we have?" "Full environmental suits, of course," Zethkar answered. "Portable shelters, food processors, medical equipment, and communication devices. You will also have automated supply drops every 3 days." Jake frowned. This sounded like they were planning to hide from the planet instead of learning to live on it. "Excuse me, sir," Jake said, raising his hand. "May I ask what the mission objective is?" Admiral Crossthan looked at him. "The students must survive on the planet for 2 weeks while completing various tactical exercises. They must work as a team and show they can handle difficult conditions." Jake nodded slowly. "With respect, sir, I think there might be a better way to do this." The room went silent. Zethkar's eyes went wide. No one questioned the Admiral's plans. "Go on," the Admiral said, looking interested. "Where I come from, we believe the best way to handle a hostile environment is to adapt to it, not hide from it. Instead of using all that equipment, what if the students learned to work with the planet? They could build their own shelters, find their own food, and learn to read the weather patterns." Several students made sounds of shock. Priyavan looked at Jake like he was crazy. "That is barbaric," Zethkar said angrily. "You want to send our best students to die on that death world. Humans may come from a planet that tries to kill them every day, but civilized species use technology to overcome nature." "But sir," Jake said calmly, "what happens when the technology fails? What happens when there are no supply drops or when the environmental suits break? A soldier should be able to survive with nothing but their training and their will to live." The Admiral looked thoughtful. "Interesting. Human soldiers do have a reputation for surviving impossible situations." "This is madness," Zethkar said. "Humans may be tough, but these students are not Deathworlders. They will die." Jake looked at the 4 students in the front row. They all looked terrified, but he could see something else in their eyes. Curiosity, maybe even excitement. "What if we made it a competition?" Jake suggested. "Instructor Zethkar can train half the students using traditional methods. I'll train the other half using human techniques. After 2 weeks, we'll see which group performs better." The Admiral smiled for the first time since entering the room. "Now that sounds interesting. What do you say, Zethkar? Are you confident in your methods?" Zethkar's mandibles clicked together angrily. "Of course I am. My students will succeed while this human students will be begging for rescue within days." "Then it's settled," the Admiral said. "Instructor Martinez, you may choose volunteers from among the students. Anyone who wants to train with the human may do so." The room buzzed with nervous conversation. Jake looked at the students. Most of them looked away, but the 4 in the front row were staring at him. Priyavan was the first to raise her hand. "I volunteer." Quilthex was next. "I will try the human way." Morgeth's crystal body flashed brighter. "I also volunteer." Finally, Veltara became more solid. "I want to see what Deathworlders consider basic training." Zethkar looked like he wanted to say something, but the Admiral held up his hand. "Excellent. 4 volunteers for each method. We will deploy to Kepler 442c in 1 week. Use that time to prepare your students, instructors." As the Admiral left, Zethkar glared at Jake. "You have just sentenced 4 of our best students to death, human. I hope you can live with that." Jake looked at his 4 volunteers. They were scared, but they were also determined. "Don't worry," he said to them. "You're stronger than you think. We're going to prove it." The transport ship shook as it entered the atmosphere of Kepler 442c. Jake looked out the window and saw a world covered in thick orange clouds. Lightning flashed between the clouds like angry spirits. Below, he could see dark mountains and deep valleys filled with strange purple plants. "Landing zone approaching," the pilot announced. "Weather conditions are stable for the next 4 hours." Jake turned to his 4 students. Priyavan was checking her equipment for the 10th time. Quilthex kept looking at his environmental suit like it might bite him. Morgeth's crystal body was flashing nervous colors, and Veltara was becoming more see-through as her anxiety grew. "Remember what we talked about," Jake said. "Trust yourselves more than your equipment." On the other side of the transport, Zethkar was giving final instructions to his group. They wore heavy environmental suits with thick helmets. Their backpacks were filled with survival gear, food, and medical supplies. Each student carried enough equipment to last a month. Jake's group looked very different. They wore light clothing, with simple breathing masks. Their packs were small and contained only basic tools, water, and emergency food for 3 days. "You see the difference?" Zethkar said loudly, pointing at Jake's students. "My students are prepared for survival. The human students are prepared for death." The transport touched down with a heavy thud. Through the windows, Jake could see the alien landscape. The ground was red and rocky. Strange plants with thorns grew everywhere. In the distance, something that looked like a cross between a bear and a spider was watching them. "Zethkar's team will deploy first," the pilot said. "Landing Zone 2 is 5 kilometers north." Zethkar's students activated their environmental suits. The suits hummed with power as air filters, temperature controls, and radiation shields came online. They moved carefully down the ramp, their heavy boots making loud sounds on the metal. Within minutes, they had set up a portable shelter. Machines came out of their packs and began scanning the air, soil, and nearby plants. Everything was automated and efficient. "See how professionals work," Zethkar said into his communicator. "We will have a secure base established within 1 hour." The transport lifted off and flew to the second landing zone. When it landed, Jake opened the door and stepped outside. The air was thick and smelled like metal and flowers. It was hot, but not unbearably so. The gravity was a little stronger than Earth's, but Jake had trained in heavier gravity before. His 4 students stood at the top of the ramp, afraid to come down. "It's safe," Jake said. "The air is breathable. It just takes a little getting used to." "But the readings show dangerous levels of oxygen," Priyavan said through her mask. "And there are unknown chemicals in the atmosphere." Jake reached up and removed his breathing mask. His students gasped in horror. "Jake, no!" Veltara shouted, becoming solid in her panic. Jake took a deep breath. The air was thick and made his lungs work harder, but it was fine. "Humans evolved to handle different air mixtures," he explained. "Your species can too, but you've never tried." He put his mask back on, but kept it loose. "We're not going to remove all our safety equipment at once. We're going to adapt slowly." Quilthex was the first to step off the transport. His clawed feet gripped the rocky ground well. "It feels different, but not bad." Morgoth came next. As soon as his crystal feet touched the ground, his body began to change. The red minerals in the soil seemed to flow into him, making him stronger and more solid. "I can feel the planet," he said with wonder. "It's talking to me through the ground." Priyavan slithered down the ramp on her belly, moving like a seal. The higher gravity was harder for her, but she adjusted quickly. Veltara floated down last, her energy form flickering with new patterns. "There are electromagnetic fields here I've never felt before," she said. "They're beautiful." Jake smiled. "This is lesson 1. Every environment has something to teach you. Instead of fighting it, learn from it." He pointed to a group of large rocks nearby. "We'll make our camp there. No machines, no automated systems. We're going to build everything ourselves." The students looked at the rocks, then at Jake, then back at the rocks. "How?" Priyavan asked. "Start by walking around and looking at what we have to work with," Jake said. "What do you see?" Quilthex spread his feathers and caught the wind. "The wind comes from the east. It's warm and brings moisture." "Good. What else?" Morgoth pressed his hands against different rocks. "These stones hold heat. They were warm from the sun all day." "Excellent. Veltara?" The energy being flickered around the area. "There's a water source 50 meters that way. I can sense the electromagnetic field of flowing water." "And Priyavan?" The aquatic alien sniffed the air through her mask. "The soil here is rich, things grow well, and there are no large predators nearby. I can smell the difference." Jake nodded approvingly. "You just did more real reconnaissance, in 5 minutes than most soldiers do with an hour of sensor scans. Now let's build a shelter." They spent the next 2 hours moving rocks and gathering materials. Jake showed them how to stack stones to block wind, how to use large, flat rocks as a roof, and how to dig a small fire pit that wouldn't be seen from far away. "Fire?" Quilthex asked nervously. "Won't that attract dangerous animals?" "Some animals are afraid of fire," Jake explained. "Others are curious about it. The key is knowing which ones live in your area and how to deal with both types." As the sun began to set, Jake's students sat around their small fire. They had loosened their breathing masks and were getting used to the thicker air. Their shelter was simple but sturdy. Across the valley, they could see the bright lights of Zethkar's camp. It looked like a small city with glowing domes and humming machines. "They look very comfortable," Veltara said. "Comfort isn't the goal," Jake replied. "Learning is the goal." "How do you feel right now?" Priyavan thought about it. "Tired, but proud. We built this with our own hands." "Exactly. And what did you learn about yourselves today?" Morgoth's crystal body glowed softly in the firelight. "I learned that I can absorb minerals from any planet. I'm stronger now than I was this morning." Quilthex ruffled his feathers. I learned that my people's natural navigation works better without machines interfering. Veltara shimmered like heat waves. I learned that every planet has its own electromagnetic signature. I can read it like a map. Priyavan smiled, something Jake had never seen her do before. I learned that my nose can tell me things no scanner can. Sudden thunder rolled across the sky. Dark clouds were gathering overhead, and the wind was getting stronger. Storm coming, Jake said calmly. What do we do? The students looked panicked. Call for pickup? Quilthex suggested. No, we adapt. Morgoth, can you make our shelter stronger? The crystal being pressed his hands against their rock walls. Minerals flowed from his body into the stones, making them larger and more solid. Veltara, can you tell how bad the storm will be? She flickered and danced in the electromagnetic fields. It's big, but it will pass by morning. The lightning will stay high in the clouds. Priyavan, is our location safe from flooding? She pressed her face to the ground and listened. Yes, the water will flow around us, not through us. Quilthex, which direction will the wind hit us hardest? He spread his feathers and felt the air currents. From the north. But if we angle our shelter wall, it will slide over us instead of hitting us. Perfect. Now let's prepare. As the first drops of rain began to fall, Jake's team worked together to improve their shelter. Each student used their natural abilities in ways they had never thought of before. Meanwhile, in Zethkar's camp, alarms were going off. The storm was interfering with their equipment, and their automated systems were shutting down one by one. This is impossible, Zethkar said into his communicator. Our weather prediction system said the storm wouldn't arrive until tomorrow. Weather prediction systems can be wrong, Jake replied over the radio. That's why we learned to read the sky ourselves. The storm hit with full force. Lightning filled the sky and rain fell like bullets. The wind howled like a living thing. In Zethakar's camp, the students huddled in their shelter while machines worked frantically to keep them safe. Their environmental suits were running low on power, and their food processors had stopped working. In Jake's camp, the 4 students sat comfortably around their fire. Their simple shelter kept them dry, and they shared stories while the storm raged outside. I can't believe we're not afraid, Priyavan said. Fear is just lack of understanding, Jake replied. You understand this planet now. You know how to work with it instead of against it. When morning came, the storm had passed. Jake's students emerged from their shelter refreshed and confident. They had survived their first night on a hostile world using nothing but their natural abilities and simple tools. Across the valley, Zethkar's camp was still dark and silent. Their machines had finally failed, and they were trapped inside their shelter, waiting for rescue. The second day on Kepler 442c began with strange sounds coming from the valley. Jake woke his students early and pointed toward Zethkar's camp. Smoke was rising from several places, and they could see figures moving around frantically. What's happening over there? Priyavan asked, using her enhanced hearing to listen carefully. Their machines are breaking down, Veltara said, reading the electromagnetic signals. I can sense power failures all over their camp. Jake nodded grimly. The storm last night was harder on their equipment than they expected. This planet's atmosphere has chemicals that eat away at metal and electronics. Quilthex spread his feathers to catch the morning breeze. Should we help them? Not yet, Jake said. They need to try to solve their problems first, but we'll keep watching. Jake had planned a 15-kilometer walk for today. He wanted his students to cross 3 different types of terrain while carrying their basic supplies. The alien students looked at the distance he had marked on their simple map. 15 kilometers? Morgoth asked. That's very far. For humans, this is a warm-up, Jake explained. But we're not trying to match human endurance. We're trying to find your endurance. They broke camp quickly. Jake showed them how to pack efficiently, how to distribute weight evenly, and how to leave no trace of their presence. Within 30 minutes, they were ready to move. The first part of their journey took them through a forest of tall plants with thick purple trunks. The plants dropped sticky sap that tried to trap anything that walked underneath them. It's like the planet is trying to catch us, Quilthex said nervously. No, Jake corrected. The plants are trying to catch nutrients from dead animals. We're not dead, so we don't have to worry. Just don't touch the sap. Priyavan discovered she could smell which plants were safe and which were dangerous. Her aquatic ancestors had needed to identify safe and unsafe waters, and that ability worked on land too. Morgoth found that his crystal body could absorb minerals from the sap without getting stuck. He began to change colors as different elements entered his system. I feel stronger, he said with amazement. Each new mineral makes me more solid. Feltara learned to read the electromagnetic fields of the plants. She could tell which ones were healthy, which ones were dying, and which ones were dangerous. The plants are talking to each other, she said. They're warning each other about us. Good, Jake said. What are they saying? They're saying we're not a threat, we're just passing through. The second part of their journey took them across a field of sharp black rocks. The rocks were hot from the sun and cut like knives. Sethkar's students would have needed special boots and protective gear to cross this area. But Jake's students were learning to adapt. Quilthex used his natural balance to hop from rock to rock like a bird. Priyavan slithered between the rocks, her smooth skin protecting her from the sharp edges. Morgoth's crystal feet were harder than the rocks, so he could walk normally. Feltara simply floated above the dangerous surface. Each of you found a different solution, Jake pointed out. That's the strength of diversity. One method doesn't work for everyone. By midday, they had covered 8 kilometers. The students were tired but not exhausted. More importantly, they were proud of what they had accomplished. I never knew I could do this, Priyavan said, looking back at the distance they had traveled. Your body knew, Jake replied. Your mind just needed to trust it. They stopped for lunch near a stream of clear water. Jake showed them how to test. If water was safe to drink, how to purify it without machines, and how to find food in the wild. These berries are safe, he said, pointing to small blue fruits growing on low bushes. They taste bitter, but they're full of energy. Quilthex tried one and made a face. It's terrible. Food doesn't have to taste good to keep you alive, Jake laughed, but your body will learn to like foods that help it survive. While they ate, Jake's communicator crackled with a distress signal. Zethkar's voice came through, filled with panic. Emergency. Emergency. Our life support systems are failing. We need immediate evacuation. Jake's students looked at him expectantly. Are we going to help them? Morgoth asked. What do you think we should do? Jake asked back. They're in real danger, Veltara said. Their electromagnetic fields are very weak. Some of them might die. But if we help them, we abandon our training, Quilthex pointed out. No, Priyavan said firmly. This is our training. A real soldier helps others even if it's difficult. Jake smiled. That's exactly right. Real strength isn't about proving how tough you are. It's about using your toughness to protect others. They gathered their supplies and began moving toward Zethkar's camp. But instead of taking the easy route, Jake led them through more challenging terrain. Why are we going the hard way? Morgoth asked. Because this is still training, Jake explained. We're learning to help others while under pressure. Emergency rescues are never easy. The third part of their journey took them down a steep cliff face. Normal soldiers would have needed ropes and climbing equipment. But Jake's students had learned to use their natural abilities. Quilthex's claws and hollow bones made him an excellent climber. He went first, finding the best handholds and footholds for the others. Priyavan moved like a seal, using her powerful muscles to grip the rock face. Her aquatic flexibility let her squeeze through spaces that would stop other climbers. Morgoth was the heaviest, but his crystal body could change shape slightly. He made himself flatter and more spread out, distributing his weight across more surface area. Veltara simply floated down, but she used her electromagnetic senses to guide the others to the safest route. We're like a team now, Priyavan observed, as they reached the bottom of the cliff. You always were a team, Jake said. You just didn't know it yet. They reached Zethkar's camp as the sun was setting. The scene was chaos. Half the equipment was broken or smoking. The students were huddled together in their failing environmental suits. afraid to breathe the planet's air. Zethkar saw Jake approaching, and his mandibles clicked with anger and embarrassment. "We don't need your help, human," he said. "Rescue ships are coming." "Rescue ships won't arrive for 6 hours," Jake replied calmly. "Your students won't last that long." One of Zethkar's students, a being that looked like a walking tree, was clearly dying. His environmental suit had completely failed, and he was gasping for air. "Let us help," Priyavan said, approaching the tree being carefully. "Stay back," Zethkar ordered. "You're not qualified medical personnel." "Maybe not," Morgeth said, "but we know how to breathe this air. We can teach him." Jake's 4 students surrounded the dying alien. They spoke to him calmly, showing him how to relax his breathing, how to let his body adjust to the different air mixture. "It's not poison," Quilthex explained. "It's just different. Your body can handle it." Slowly, the tree being's panic subsided. His breathing became more regular. The purple color left his bark-like skin. "How did you do that?" Zethkar asked in amazement. "We learned to trust our bodies instead of our machines," Veltara said simply. One by one, Jake's students helped Zethkar's. Students removed their failing environmental suits and adapt to breathing the planet's air. They shared their knowledge about finding safe water, identifying edible plants, and reading weather patterns. "This is impossible," Zethkar muttered. "They've been here for 2 days and they know more about survival than students who have studied for years." "They didn't study survival," Jake said. "They lived it." As the rescue ships arrived, Jake's students were teaching Zethkar's students how to build a fire, how to find shelter, and how to work together without machines. "I don't understand," Zethkar said to Jake. "How did you turn them into soldiers so quickly?" "I didn't turn them into anything," Jake replied. "I just showed them what they already were." The rescue ships landed and medical teams rushed out to check on everyone. They were amazed to find that not only was everyone alive, but Zethkar's students were actually healthier than when they had arrived. "What happened here?" the medical officer asked. "We learned something new," Priyavan said, looking at her 3 teammates. "We learned that we're stronger than we thought." As they boarded the ships to return to the station, Jake noticed that his 4 students were different now. They moved with confidence, spoke with authority, and looked at challenges as opportunities instead of threats. "How do you feel?" Jake asked them. "Like we could do anything," Quilthex said. "Like the galaxy is smaller than we thought," Morgeth added. "Like we've been sleeping our whole lives," Veltara said. "Like we're finally awake," Priyavan finished. Jake smiled. The real training had just begun. The transport ship docked at Galactic Military Academy Station Omega-7 with a soft thud. Jake watched through the window as Academy officials rushed toward the landing bay. News of what happened on Kepler 442c had already reached the station. Admiral Crossthan stood waiting at the airlock with several other high-ranking officers. His purple face showed concern, but also curiosity. Zethkar's students came off the ship first. They moved slowly and kept looking around nervously. Without their environmental suits, they seemed lost and afraid. The bright lights of the station made them squint, and the recycled air made them cough. Then Jake's 4 students walked out. The difference was shocking. Priyavan moved with smooth confidence, her head held high. Quilthex's feathers were bright and clean, and his yellow eyes were alert and sharp. Morgeth's crystal body glowed with new colors from the minerals he had absorbed. Veltara was more solid than anyone had ever seen her, her energy form steady and strong. "My students performed adequately," Zethkar said quickly to the Admiral. "The equipment failures were unexpected, but we maintained discipline and followed proper procedures." Admiral Crossthan looked at the group of tired, defeated aliens behind Zethkar. Then he looked at Jake's confident, energetic students. "Doctor, Lisa Thompson is waiting in conference room 3, the Admiral said. "She wants to examine all the students and review the mission data." Dr. Thompson was a human scientist who specialized in alien biology. She had been studying the reports from Kepler 442c with great interest. When Jake and the students entered the conference room, she was surrounded by screens showing charts, graphs, and medical readouts. "This is fascinating," she said without looking up. The biological changes in your students are unlike anything we've seen before. She turned to face Priyavan. Your lung capacity has increased by 15%. Your muscle density has improved by 12%. Your reaction time is 30% faster than when you left. Priyavan looked surprised. I feel different, but I didn't know it was measurable. Dr. Thompson moved to Quilthex. Your balance and coordination scores are off the charts. Your bone density has actually increased, which should be impossible for your species. I feel like I could fly through an asteroid field with my eyes closed, Quilthex said proudly. Morgeth, Dr. Thompson continued, you've absorbed 17 different minerals. Your body composition has completely changed. You're stronger and more durable than any crystalline being on record. Morgeth's body flashed with happy colors. The planet taught me how to grow. And Veltara, Dr. Thompson said, your energy matrix has stabilized in ways we thought were impossible. You can maintain solid form for hours now, and your electromagnetic sensitivity has doubled. Veltara flickered with excitement. I can read energy patterns I never knew existed. Dr. Thompson turned to Admiral Croston. Sir, these improvements happened in just 3 days. If we could replicate these results across the military, that's exactly what I'm afraid of, said a new voice. Everyone turned to see General Vexmore entering the room. He was a tall, thin being with gray skin and cold black eyes. He represented the traditional military council, a group that opposed changes to established training methods. Admiral, General Vexmore said, I've received complaints from 12 different species governments. They're concerned about these dangerous human training methods. What complaints? Jake asked. The Velcarian High Command says you nearly killed their best students with barbaric exposure therapy. The Cetacean Council claims you forced their representative to abandon thousands of years of aquatic safety protocols. The Avarian Fleet Command insists that natural navigation is inferior to technological guidance systems. Admiral Croston frowned. But the results speak for themselves. The results are irrelevant if the methods are too dangerous, General Vexmore replied. We cannot risk the lives of our best students on primitive Deathworlder techniques. With respect, sir, Priyavan said, speaking up for the first time. We weren't in danger. We were learning. General Vexmore looked at her with distaste. You're suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. You've been traumatized into thinking your captor was helping you. Captor? Quilthex's feathers ruffled with anger. Jake saved our lives. He taught us how to save ourselves. You were manipulated by a member of a violent species, General Vexmore continued. Humans are known for their aggression and their disregard for safety. Morgeth stepped forward, his crystal body flashing red. Jake risked his own safety to teach us. He never asked us to do anything he wouldn't do himself. And that's exactly the problem, General Vexmore said. Humans think taking unnecessary risks is brave. Civilized species think taking unnecessary risks is stupid. Veltara became fully solid, something she had never done in anger before. The only stupid thing is wasting our potential because you're afraid. Admiral Croston held up his hand for silence. General Vexmore, I propose we settle this matter with a demonstration. What kind of demonstration? We'll test the effectiveness of both training methods. Jake can select any human to compete against our best graduate from last year. General Vexmore smiled coldly. You mean Nextorin, the pride of the Reptilian Military Academy? He's completed every advanced course we offer. That's exactly who, Admiral Crossethan said. Jake thought for a moment. I choose Ryan Cole. Who is Ryan Cole? General Vexmore asked. He's a human engineer, Jake explained. He fixes machines and builds things. He has no formal military training. The room went silent. Even Dr. Thompson looked shocked. You want an untrained engineer to compete against our best soldier? General Vexmore asked in disbelief. Ryan has something your best soldier doesn't have, Jake said. What's that? A human perspective on problem solving. General Vexmore laughed. This will be easier than I thought. When your engineer fails, we'll ban all human training methods permanently. And when he succeeds, Admiral Croston asked. If he succeeds, General Vexmore said, I'll personally recommend that human training methods be implemented across the entire Galactic Military Academy system. 3 days later, Ryan Cole arrived on a transport ship. He was a quiet man with friendly eyes and hands that were permanently stained with machine oil. He looked around the academy with curiosity rather than intimidation. "So you want me to compete with some alien super soldier?" he asked Jake. "Not compete," Jake corrected. "Survive together." "What's the difference?" "The test isn't about who's better. It's about whether different approaches can work together." Ryan met Nextorin in the Academy's main briefing room. Nextorin was 8 feet tall with scales that changed color based on his mood. His muscles were clearly visible under his perfectly fitted uniform. Medals and commendations covered his chest. "So you're the human engineer," Nextorin said, looking Ryan up and down. "You don't look like much." "I don't need to look like much," Ryan replied calmly. "I just need to be useful." Admiral Cross then explained the test. "You will be deployed to Kepler 442c's most dangerous region. You must survive for 5 days while completing a series of objectives. But here's the catch. You must work together. If one of you fails, you both fail." Nextorin's scales turned purple with annoyance. "I don't need help from a maintenance worker. And I don't need attitude from someone who's never fixed anything in his life," Ryan replied. Dr. Thompson stepped forward. "The area you're going to has active volcanoes, predatory, animals that hunt in packs, and weather that changes every few hours. Your objectives include rescuing simulated crash survivors, establishing communication with the orbiting station, and reaching a specific extraction point 50 kilometers away." "What equipment do we get?" Nextorin asked. "Standard survival gear," Admiral Crossathan said, "plus whatever knowledge and skills you bring with you." As the two prepared for deployment, Jake pulled Ryan aside. "Remember," Jake said, "strength isn't about proving you're better than someone else. It's about making everyone better." "What if he won't listen to me?" Ryan asked. "Then you listen to him first. Show him that cooperation isn't weakness." General Vexmore approached Nextorin with his own advice. "Don't let the human slow you down. Use his willingness to take risks, but don't copy his methods." "Understood, sir," Nextorin replied. As the transport prepared for departure, Jake's 4 students gathered around Ryan. "Remember what Jake taught us," Priyavan said. "Trust your instincts. Work with the environment, not against it," Quilthex added. "Every challenge is a chance to grow stronger," Morgoth said, "and help others discover their own strength." Veltara finished. Ryan smiled. "Thanks. I'll do my best." The transport, carrying Ryan and Nextorin, launched toward Kepler 442c. In the observation deck, Academy officials, students, and instructors watched the ship disappear into space. "This test will determine the future of military training in our galaxy," Admiral Crossathan announced. Jake looked out at the stars and hoped that Ryan would remember the most important lesson of all, that true strength comes not from what you can do alone, but from what you can help others become. The transport ship carrying Ryan Cole and Nextorin descended through the thick clouds of Kepler 442c. This time they were heading to the Scorched Valley, the most dangerous place on the planet. The ground was covered with sharp volcanic glass. Steam vents shot boiling water into the air, and creatures with acid spit hunted anything that moved. "Landing in 30 seconds, the pilot announced. "Weather conditions are unstable. You have a 4-hour window before the next storm system arrives." Ryan looked out the window at the hellish landscape below. Red lava flowed between black rocks, and the air shimmered with heat. "Looks friendly," he said with a dry smile. Nextorin checked his equipment for the 3rd time. His environmental suit was military grade, designed to handle extreme conditions. His weapons were clean and ready. His communication device was tuned to emergency frequencies. "Remember the objectives," Nextorin said, reading from his digital display. "Rescue the crash survivors at coordinates 1 and 27 Alpha. Establish communication with the station. Reach extraction point 50 kilometers northeast." "And we have to do it together," Ryan added, adjusting his simple breathing mask and tool belt. "I don't need help from a civilian," Nextorin muttered. The ship touched down and opened its doors. Heat rushed in like a physical blow. The air was filled with sulfur and smoke. In the distance, they could hear the roars of hunting packs and the rumble of active volcanoes. Nextorin stepped out first, his environmental suit humming with climate control systems. His heads-up display immediately began analyzing threats and mapping the safest route to their first objective. Ryan followed, wearing only light clothing and his breathing mask. The heat was intense, but he had worked in foundries and engine rooms that were nearly as hot. He looked around with the eyes of someone who solved problems for a living. "The crash site is 8 kilometers that way," Nextorin said, pointing northeast. "My suit's navigation system shows a safe route that avoids the major lava flows." "Your navigation system can't see underground," Ryan said, kneeling down and pressing his ear to the ground. "I can hear rumbling beneath us. This whole area is unstable. My sensors would detect geological instability," Nextorin replied coldly. "Your sensors detect what they're programmed to detect," Ryan said. "But I bet they've never been on a planet like this before." As if to prove his point, the ground 20 meters to their left suddenly collapsed, revealing a pool of bubbling lava underneath. Nextorin stared at the hole, his scales turning pale yellow. "How did you know?" "Metal expands and contracts with heat," Ryan explained. "When you listen to the ground, you can hear when the rock is getting ready to break." They began moving toward the crash site, but Ryan took a different route than Nextorin's computer suggested. Instead of going around the dangerous areas, he led them through what looked like the most hostile terrain. "This is madness," Nextorin protested as they climbed over sharp volcanic rocks. "We should use the safe path." "There is no safe path," Ryan said, helping Nextorin up a particularly steep section. "But there are smart paths. See how these rocks are arranged? They're like steps. The planet is showing us the way." As they climbed, Ryan pointed out details that Nextorin's technology had missed. Steam vents that could be used for navigation, rock formations that provided shelter from acid rain, plant life that grew only near fresh water sources. "How do you know all this?" Nextorin asked. "I don't," Ryan admitted. "I'm learning as we go. Every planet is like a machine. Once you understand how it works, you can work with it instead of against it." They reached the crash site in half the time Nextorin's computer had predicted. 3. Simulation dummies were scattered around a fake crashed ship. But the real challenge was that the dummies were surrounded by a pack of 6-legged lizards with corrosive saliva. "I'll use my plasma rifle to clear them out," Nextorin said, raising his weapon. "Wait," Ryan said, studying the creatures. "Look at their behavior. They're not guarding the crash site. They're protecting something underneath it." Ryan picked up a piece of volcanic glass and tossed it away from the crash site. Immediately, 3 of the lizards chased after it, thinking it was food. "They're scavengers, not predators," Ryan realized. "They think the dummies are dead animals. If we show them we're alive and not a threat, they'll ignore us." Ryan stood up slowly and walked toward the lizards with his hands visible and his movements calm. The creatures watched him but didn't attack. He carefully picked up the first dummy and carried it away from their protected area. Nextorin followed Ryan's example, moving slowly and peacefully. Within minutes, they had retrieved all 3 dummies without firing a shot. "Remarkable," Nextorin said. "My training taught me to fight or flee. It never taught me to understand." "Understanding is usually better than fighting," Ryan said. "Fighting should be the last option, not the first." Their next objective was to establish communication with the orbital station. Nextorin's equipment included a powerful transmitter, but the volcanic activity was interfering with the signal. "The electromagnetic interference is too strong," Nextorin said, frustrated. "We need to reach higher ground." Ryan looked around and noticed something strange. "Those crystal formations over there, they're arranged in a pattern, almost like they're focusing energy." They climbed to the crystal formation, and Ryan began examining the strange rocks. "These aren't just decorations," he said. "They're natural amplifiers. The planet is using them to focus electromagnetic energy. But how do we use them?" Nextorin asked. Ryan smiled. The same way I'd use any amplifier. We tune our frequency to match theirs. Working together, they repositioned Nextorin's communication equipment to align with the crystal formation. The natural amplifiers boosted their signal beyond anything the technology could achieve alone. Academy Station, this is Ground Team. Nextorin spoke into his communicator. We have successfully completed Objective 2. Copy. Ground Team, came the clear reply. Signal strength is excellent. How did you achieve such clarity? Ryan and Nextorin looked at each other and smiled. Teamwork, they said together. The final objective was the hardest, reaching the extraction point 50 kilometers away. The route would take them through active lava fields, across a river of acid, and past the territory of the planet's apex, predators. This will require all our skills, Nextorin said, looking at the challenging terrain ahead. Our skills and the planet's help, Ryan added. As they traveled, something remarkable happened. Nextorin began to see the hostile environment through Ryan's eyes. He started noticing patterns in the lava flows that indicated safe crossing points. He learned to read the behavior of dangerous animals to avoid confrontation. He discovered that his own natural reptilian abilities worked better when he stopped relying entirely on his suit's systems. Meanwhile, Ryan learned from Nextorin's military training. He improved his situational awareness, learned proper tactical movement, and discovered the value of disciplined preparation. You know, Nextorin said as they helped each other across a narrow bridge of cooled lava. I was wrong about human methods being primitive, and I was wrong about military training being rigid, Ryan replied. Your discipline and my adaptability work well together. They reached the extraction point as the sun was setting. Both men were tired, dirty, and changed by their experience. Ryan had learned the value of structure and planning. Nextorin had learned the power of flexibility and intuition. When the rescue ship arrived, Admiral Croston was aboard personally. He wanted to see the results of this crucial test for himself. How did it go? The Admiral asked as they climbed aboard. Better than expected, Nextorin said. I learned more in 5 days than in 5 years of traditional training. And I learned that good training makes good instincts even better, Ryan added. Back at the Academy, news of their success spread quickly. The video recordings of their mission showed 2 very different individuals working together to achieve what neither could have accomplished alone. General Vexmore watched the recordings with a thoughtful expression. Finally, he spoke to Admiral Croston. I was wrong, he admitted. Human training methods aren't about replacing our traditions. They're about making our traditions stronger. Admiral Croston smiled. So, you'll support the new integrated training program? I'll do more than support it, General Vexmore said. I'll help design it. 6 months later, the Galactic Military Academy had transformed. Students from dozens of species trained together, using methods that combined the best of every culture. Jake's original 4 students, Priavan, Quilthex, Morgeth, and Veltara, had become instructors themselves, teaching others how to discover their hidden potential. Zethkar, once Jake's biggest critic, now worked alongside him to develop new training exercises. I still think your methods are dangerous, he told Jake one day, but I've learned that the most dangerous thing of all is not reaching your full potential. Jake stood in the observation deck, watching a new class of students tackle their first challenge on Kepler 442c. This group included humans, aliens, and hybrids, working together as one team. You did it, Admiral Crossethan said, joining him at the window. You changed how we think about strength and training. I didn't change anything, Jake replied. I just showed everyone what was already there. Every species in the galaxy has incredible abilities.